All right, folks, this one is hot off the press. I am looking at a headline from Aljazeera, and yes, we scan all the news that's out there, but it is confirmed this really did happen. It says heavy damage to Damascus airport confirmed after Israeli attack. And the subheading to this says Syria Transport Ministry says runways at Damascus International Airport remain out of service after missile strike. Now, some of you might already be asking, is this the attack on Damascus as it says in the Bible, as we understand it in Bible prophecy? I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but let me read some of the article here because it is very useful information. It says Syria state media has confirmed that Damascus International Airport has suffered major damage, including to runways, following an Israeli missile attack. Now, the Syrian Transport Ministry said in a statement on Saturday that runways remained out of service at the capital's airport following an attack on Friday, the state-run Syrian Arab news agency reported. Now, they continue to say landing and departing flights were suspended today till further notification as a result of the Israeli aggression, that's the word they use, right? Since it caused heavy damages to the airstrips in several localities and to the navigation lights, in addition to the damages that occurred in the airport lobby. So this most definitely was a significant attack, and a lot of people are asking, okay, what is this? Is this the beginning of the destruction of Damascus that we read about in the Bible? I honest to goodness don't think that that's what we're talking about here. Now, some people might say we are, but this is very important news, and there are some take-homes here. First of all, the first take-home that we should immediately bring up is the fact that Russia has a significant interest in defending Damascus simply because of its assertion that it has sovereignty over the border of Syria that borders Israel, okay? So they, of course, have deployed their S-3, S-400 missile battery systems all throughout Syria in a literal walkway or pathway into Damascus, and they have asserted to Israel that they are not going to be allowed to launch any attacks unless, in essence, there is discussion first with them. Now, I have to think that Israel probably did not unilaterally do this. My guess is there had to have been some discussion with Russia before Israel actually chose to do this in response to some of the aggression that Syria has chosen to continue after commencing towards Israel. So that's a very important aspect that we have to think about, number one, because remember, in Ezekiel 38, we read about the fact that Israel has a great relationship even with its attacker, Russia, and the conglomerate of nations that exist. Now, this also gets complicated because when you bring Turkey into the picture, if there is an all-out sort of a mini sort of a war that takes place in Syria as a result of this and them seeking to attack Israel, this will result in some things being triggered with respect to aggression between Turkey and Syria, and then there will be some internal fighting going back and forth, right? Now, you have to keep in mind that Israel, of course, has carried out lots of air raids against Syria when war broke out, only because these government troops were backing Israeli fighters. That's what I like to call them, not Israeli fighters, Iranian fighters, terrorists, who are actually acting through proxy via Lebanon, a la Hezbollah, right? So this is all the kind of stuff that we have seen coming. We know that this kind of thing is going to be happening, and none of us should be surprised by it. Now, I do think that it's important to say that there are some biblical implications into this, and that is we are beginning to see the region begin to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And I'm not talking about the climate. I'm talking about the climate of the war in the air. And I think it's going to continue to necessitate the need to create the type of a peace treaty that you will see happen with the Antichrist as he strengthens what exists. Now, I think all of that, of course, happens after the rapture, but we're beginning to see it move in that direction. And I cannot remind you enough of how inconsequential Syria becomes throughout the scenario of the end times, but there's a lot of things that have to happen in Syria to lead up to that point, and we're seeing the beginning of it. Look, folks, the bottom line is this. Jesus is coming soon. More analysis on this to come. There's a lot more to talk about. I'm very interested to see what happens as a result of all of this. But just understand, none of this should surprise us because we know what the biblical precedent is as we establish what we know should be coming based on what the scriptures teach us. So look up. Jesus is coming soon. This is good stuff. God bless you guys.